Hello everyone, I'm Meteorologist Charlie Ironmonger. Thank you so much for joining me today for your 1 p.m. news and weather update from the First Alert Desk. And now we've got news out of Greenville as auto tariffs are expected to start impacting the economy over the next few months. A study shows that more than $1.1 billion in tariffs were imposed on assembled vehicles from Canada and Mexico, and another $276 million was put on auto parts back in July. Now, in total, $1.389 billion in tariff duties was imposed on cars and auto parts from both of those countries. Now, the Anderson Economic Group says costs were imposed on North American automakers and their suppliers. Automakers assembling vehicles in the United States include General Motors, Ford, Stellantis, Toyota, Honda, Hyundai, Kia, Rivian, Tesla, as well as Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, and BMW. Many of the vehicles assembled in the U.S. have substantial parts content from Canada and Mexico. Now, before July, the group says that almost all vehicles and a large share of the auto parts from Canada and Mexico were reported as exempt from tariffs. That sharply contrasts with the vehicles and parts from Germany and Japan, which received very few exemptions. ECU professor Nicholas Rupp of the economics department explains what this means for consumers. He said, quote, "Higher new vehicle prices due to these tariffs and rising costs of these parts, and where these cars are assembled, car prices are going to rise 8%. So what you're going to see if maybe consumers shifting to the used car market to replace their vehicle rather than to the new car market. So we could see rising prices of used vehicles as well because of the rise of demand, and you're likely to see a slowdown in new car sales," end quote. And within 1 month, the share of exempt Canadian vehicles plunged from 99% to 36%. In addition, the group adds that Mexican vehicles also saw further decline in exemptions, with the share of tariff-free vehicles dropping to just 21% in July from 91% in March. And now we want to turn to the news that Britain, Australia, Canada, along with Portugal, have all come together to announce their recognition of a Palestinian state. And with the UN General Assembly converging, it is a topic that is on the forefront of discussion. NBC's Matt Bradley has more.
Well, all eyes in the Middle East are now turned on New York, where the United Nations General Assembly is convening with world leaders. It's their annual big event. Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, is planning on speaking on Friday, where he will likely deliver a somewhat defiant speech, according to people who are briefed on the matter in the Israeli Prime Minister's office, but one that will be looking forward to basically a new Middle East, the kind of thing that Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying for much of the past 2 years. Now, the defiance is going to come in the face of increasing recognition by Western countries, including, just lately, Britain, Australia, Canada, and now Portugal, of a Palestinian state. Now, this symbolic move has caused a lot of hand-wringing in the halls of power here in Israel. Now, from what I'm told, there are considerations for retaliating against some of these countries, particularly France, who was seen by the Israelis and who had been kind of the ringleader of this effort to recognize Palestinian statehood. Some of the options being discussed are basically moving some of the areas that are now under strict Palestinian control in the West Bank into full Israeli control in the West Bank. Now, this would cause a lot of anger among Palestinians in the West Bank and really among Arabs throughout the Arab world. There also is a lot of pressure on the Prime Minister to fully annex the West Bank, something that would greatly anger many of the Arab countries who have already inked normalization deals for diplomacy between them and Israel. So there is a lot of risk going forward for diplomacy with the Israelis. This is definitely something that is causing a lot of hand-wringing, but whether or not they go through with it, we won't know until next week. That's after the Prime Minister meets with President Trump in Washington. And from what I'm told, any moves, especially retaliatory ones, are going to be taken in close consultation with the United States. Matt Bradley, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
Thank you very much, Matt, for that report. We now want to turn to your forecast, and we've got two areas of concern that could could be impacting eastern North Carolina within possibly the next 2 weeks. We're talking about tropical systems, but we'll start out with the one that will not be impacting us, but the one right now that is showing the most force around its central low. Talking about Hurricane Gabrielle. Right now it is moving north at about 10 miles an hour. There you can see it's about, I would say, less than 100 miles, maybe around 100 miles, just off to the southeast of Bermuda. It's going to again stay east of Bermuda, so good news for us is that we aren't going to be seeing any additional impacts from this system. We again are seeing a little bit of a rise in surf along our coastline, but certainly not nothing too crazy out there. As far as this system's lifespan goes, well, right now it has 120 mile an hour maximum sustained winds. That could get up to 130 mile an hour maximum sustained winds coming up later on this evening at 8 p.m. We'll see if, again, Gabrielle can intensify up to that level. But regardless, it's going to be pulling away from North America and heading towards Europe as we make our way through this week and into the upcoming weekend. By Saturday, it should be a post-tropical low just off to the northwest of Portugal and Spain, kind of heading towards the UK, possibly clipping northern France. Now to the areas of concern a little bit closer to home that could have potentially an impact on the east. Starting out with this system. Right now, the center of the system, the X you're seeing, that is the area of concern. You can see there's a lot of thunderstorm activity around that X, again indicating that there is certainly a low pressure system there, but not enough organization that is seeing those thunderstorms rotate around a singular point. So that low is still coming together over the next 7 days, has a 70% chance of tropical development. Over the next 48 hours, down to a 20% chance. So one we'll continue to keep an eye on, but this is a system I think that has a better opportunity for impacting the U.S. Now, whether or not we are included within those impacts still has yet to be determined. But for right now, that X you're seeing just off the Leeward Islands, that's, I would give it about 150 miles off the Leeward Islands, maybe 200 miles. Again, it's always difficult when you zoom the map in and out to really get a good reading on that distance estimations, but it is going to be moving closer towards the Turks and Caicos as well as the Bahamas, and that is concerning for us because that's generally the zone where we can get tropical systems moving into eastern North Carolina fairly easily from that location. So that's something we'll continue to monitor over the next 7 days. Has a medium chance of development, a 40% chance if you want to put a number to it. As far as your air temperatures go, most of us right now are kind of hovering right around the 80-degree mark. Some of us a little bit warmer, others a little bit cooler, but most of us at least in that ballpark. Through the rest of the afternoon, we'll continue to gain a little bit more heat on top of what's out there already. Over the past 24 hours, some areas have seen a little bit of a drop in air temperatures. Plymouth and New Bern coming in, and Kenansville for that matter, coming in 4 degrees cooler than where we were at yesterday at this time. Jacksonville 6 degrees cooler than where we were at this time yesterday. Now, regardless of where we were at yesterday, things are actually going to be getting warmer as we head from today into tomorrow. Northeasterly wind will relax coming up later on this evening. Right now, blowing in at about 5 to 10 miles an hour, but expecting to see the mid-80s coming up this afternoon. And then the mid to upper 80s coming up for tomorrow afternoon. Now, we will start the day tomorrow in the low to mid 60s under mostly sunny skies. Those of you watching along the coast should still anticipate a little bit of some cloud cover early on in the day. But as we head through the day, that cloud cover will gradually depart, leaving us with sunnier skies through tomorrow afternoon, and comes with a wind shift. Note that northeasterly winds at a very light 3 miles an hour, mind you, at 1 p.m. turns more southeasterly as we head towards 4 and 5 p.m. That is important. That will help us maintain upper 80 air temperatures, possibly even getting into the low 90s by the time we reach Wednesday and Thursday. Of course, we're going to be talking about a cold frontal boundary that'll push through eastern North Carolina on Thursday, but it'll approach eastern North Carolina as early as really Tuesday night. but it's going to again be a frontal boundary that gets pulled and horizontally oriented, which will reduce our risk of severe storms, and it will reduce our risk of just widespread thunderstorms in general. So good news that in that regard. The problem is that the timing of this system unfortunately matches up with the ECU Army game. The kickoff right now is scheduled for 7:30. If you are planning on heading to that game, tailgating, you may end up totally fine. The problem is that once we get to game time, that's when those thunderstorms could start to form, and we could end up seeing a slight weather delay. We shall see, but I want to at least inform you guys all that that is something we want to first alert you to. The fact that that ECU game may end up being delayed as we get closer and closer to kickoff if we have any thunderstorms in the area. The thunderstorm threat will hold through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday we'll see those rain chances dip a bit from a 60% chance on Friday down to a 30% chance on Saturday and Sunday. Air temperatures will also dip, going from the upper 80s on Thursday, mid 80s on Friday, low 80s for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday of next week. Well, that's all we have time for today's 1 p.m. news and weather update from the First Alert Desk. I want to thank you all so much for joining me. We'll be back with more news and weather coming up at the top of the hour. Until then, I hope you all have a fantastic day.
This hour of the WITN First Alert Desk is sponsored by Supreme Choice.